Good morning, good evening, or good afternoon, depending on what side of the pond you're on, and welcome to an extra special edition of Across the Pitch. My name is Phil Kennedy, and we're here for another one of our Accrington Stanley Legends interviews with Tony Robinson and Darren Woodhead, our Accrington Stanley historians. And today we have someone who is widely recognized as one of the top non-league players of his generation, played from Stanley from 1999 through 2002, player of the year in the historic 1999-2000 season. Welcome to Across the Pitch, Mark Shirley. Thank you for joining us today, Mark.
Cheers, lads. Thanks a lot for having me on.
No, it's a pleasure to speak to you, Mark. I've in prepping for this interview, I've watched that goal you scored over and over again, and I'll tell you, it's a blinder. But we'll talk about that later. The one thing I wanted to get out of the way right off the bat, since you're from Liverpool, which has a great connection with Stanley, are you a red or a blue half of Liverpool?
Oh, most definitely a blue. Yeah, as most probably people from the actual city are probably blues.
Oh.
there's never any halfway. It's all blue or all red, isn't it?
Most definitely, yeah. It's definitely blue. I
wanted to just touch on, while we've got that out of the way, is that when you were starting your career, you joined Nottingham Forest as an apprentice.
Yeah.
How did that come about, and what was that like for you?
I think at the time we were playing that football of Kirby boys and Merseyside boys. I actually signed schoolboy forms for Everton. I went actually before schoolboy forms when I was 13. I used to go a couple of times a week, and then I signed schoolboy forms at 14. And sort of as we were coming round for the apprenticeship sort of time, a bit of a common theme with me as we'll go on is you get a little bit impatient, a little bit petulant, and sort of I had the choice of Liverpool, Everton, Notts Forest and Man City at the time, and I decided obviously sign for Everton. Yeah, it was local, and then sort of, as I say, getting a bit near the time. And so there was somebody who come back onto me for us, why don't you come and have a look at them? And so we ended up going down. They put me up in a hotel for a couple of weeks, same hotel as Stuart Pearce. He'd not long signed from Coventry. And he was very, very good with me, to be honest. And I ended up signing for Forest. But that was probably a wrong move, if I'm being honest. Because I didn't like being away. After the initial 2 or 3 months actually being there, I didn't really like being away from home with him, But I used to come home of a weekend with Peter Davenport. Used to drop me off, save me on the train fare, which is very good of him. And the initial bit was very good, full time training, loved it. But the actual being away from home, I didn't like.
So Mark, what was it? Did you come into contact with Mr. Clough around that era?
Oh yeah. I mean, Cloughy was like, he's like a god, and he'd sign players from at the time £500,000, and they'd see him coming down the corridor, and they'd be diving in the boot room because they were, we had this order about him, and if you didn't cross him, but yeah, he'd be like soft at times. I think. A couple of times he'd say, right, a couple of lads come to my house, he said, and forget training, come and brush me leaves up, and you're like, what's this? And you'd have the chauffeur come and pick you up, and he'd take you to his house, and you'd only be there half an hour. He said, have a coffee. But that was when he was starting to sort of have the drink. And it was like, okay, we're going down the pub now for some lunch with his friends. And I was like, wearing the training kit, just real like nice. And you go back to digs, and he'd say, he'd hand you a £5 each, and he'd say, right, here's a load of chocolate and all. I'd take that into the digs for the lads and stuff, But then when he was back at the club, it was, people were, really feel some sort of way. He did rule. He ruled. The coaches were scared of him. Because of what he'd done. Obviously, his reputation was, at that time, was second to none. He was, but he was sort of, the drink was having an effect on him, at that time.
Yeah.
But,
so, I mean, I think that's something we've touched on with a few players as we've had on the podcast, about moving away from home. And because I look at you as a player when you came to Stanley, you think, how is this guy not been playing in the Football League, his skill level? But it must be massive to move away from home when you're such a young age, and then that can take you on a career path rather than if you're at your local club, etc. Yeah.
It is that, and you haven't got the sort of support. I mean, don't get me wrong. My mum would, follow me everywhere. My dad passed away when I was about, I think, it was 8. So, and I come from a big family. They all supported me. But I played centre midfield then, and Alan Hills, who was the coach, he comes to me and said, "Look," he said, "we think you're going to come through maybe 21. We don't think you're physically strong enough, and we haven't got that time to wait." And at the time, you're probably thinking, "Well, that's a load of bullshit, isn't it?" Because you don't want to hear it. You're thinking, but later on, and that was probably my downfall, that I didn't recognise that as what he'd said. And at the time, Forest, when you think they'd won the European Cup in '82, they were sort of skint, if I'm being honest. They were like, they closed the Jubilee Club, which was like it's like the club attached to the ground. So we used to go in there for lunch after training. That was closed. So he could give you some money to go down the local shop. We had to go to the Asda to get boot polish. It was like, it was run like Tim Pot, but they did at that time. They didn't have much money, sort of thing. And what he said to me, you don't have time to wait. And I think, listen, probably, I didn't believe him at the time. But then, as my career went on, or didn't go on, you recognise that maybe what he did say, there was a little bit of something in that,
Yeah. So, how old were you when you left Forest?
So I was 18 when I left Forest.
18.
Yeah, after
so what?
Yeah.
So we know, obviously, you came on to play for Morecambe, and you did really well in non-league football. But what were your next steps then after as an 18-year-old?
Well, as I say, I could have gone to Liverpool before sort of Everton, Forest. So I got in touch with Liverpool, and John Bennison said, "Mark, come down and train with us." So I come down and train. It was right near the end of the season, and I'd done okay. And I thought, well, they're going to invite me back for pre-season here because it's going to cost them nothing. And he says to me, "Look, Mark," he said, they were releasing all the lads my age, to be honest. He said, "We can't sign you because we haven't seen enough of you." So you take that as, listen, they don't want to know, really. So, okay, that was fine. I wasn't too happy, a bit gutted. But you come away from Anfield, and okay, what's my next moves? And you don't, at that age, you don't have many contacts. But me sort of pre-season, I got myself really fit. And my brother just phones up out the blue and says, "Listen," I'm speaking to a friend of mine. He said, "And the team he knows are playing Liverpool reserves tomorrow. Go down and play." I'm like, "Listen, they're not playing Liverpool reserves, are they? It's a Sunday league side. They're not." He said, "Mark, they are. They play them every year." So I said, "Okay." So it goes down, and when it gets down there, you've got at the time these were all lads who were playing Sunday. So there was a couple of semi-pro lads playing. There was Davy Pugh, who went on, Captain Berry. It was his dad's. They're all older than me. They're 23, maybe something around that age. Jimmy Coleman, who was apprentice at Liverpool, he'd been released. He played for them. His daughter's Jodie Coleman off the. Villeneuve, that's his daughter. Yeah. We had 2 or 3, Robbie Lee, Robbie Gatt, all played for South Liverpool, but I didn't know any of these, all older than me. So we go down and play, and I have a good game. I play well. I'm playing centre midfield, and then the scout says to the fellow who my brother, "Tell Mark to come in and train after the overnight." So I've gone like, "Well, I'm not doing that, am I?" I said, "Because I've been full time." Now that was, who does that? But listen, at that age, you think you know your own mind, and it was poor because Liverpool Football Club, they come in overnight. You think you'd run there, but the way I'd see it was, well, why would they be coming in overnight? But like, you've got people coming from school on some bit, but that would have been a little maybe an inroad in for me, and I didn't take it. And I did regret it. Years later, you regret it, and you look back and think, why didn't I do that?
Yeah. So
Yeah, and again, it's all my decisions. Even though I said I've got a support around me, I come from a big family. These are my decisions. The wrong decisions, but you have to make them at the time. So at that game, there was Johnny King there, and he used to manage Runcorn and Altrincham.
Yeah,
and he says to me, through this, ask Mark to come down and play for Runcorn, and I'm like, who's Runcorn? I didn't really have a clue at that time about non-league football, if I'm being honest. we try and get him a job and give him, he said £50 at the time, getting like. So he eventually goes down a few weeks later, and I realise I'm nowhere near good enough to play for these. They had Ozzie Smith, John Davis, and Mark Carter, all England internationals playing for them. And the ones he didn't have were really good players as well. He had a real good squad, tough, being seasoned pros, and I dropped into non-league. And I'm nowhere near good enough to play for these. So, Kingy sort of offered me a way into it, but I know I'm out my depth. These are far better than me. Even though I'm starting out, but these are a lot better. I'm not going to play for these. So it's a case of then trying to what you can. You're trying to get into non-league and who you're going to play for and stuff. It's difficult because you're only young and trying to make that step up into non-league, which is there's that many good players. It is difficult.
Yeah, even more so back in the day, wasn't it? I mean, I look at non-league football, and there's still some decent players around, but there was a hell of a lot of good players at that time, wasn't there?
Yeah, because I think the money situation as well. You could probably earn as much playing non-league and working as what somebody could go in the old third division or old fourth division. So why would they do that? So there was the Northern Premier, then the Conference. There was some real good top players in it. So we ended up going to Kirkby Town, and they'd not long started up. Jimmy, to be honest, was like sort of star man, banging a load of goals in for them. Jimmy Bell, and I'm saying
he liked to hear that, wasn't he? He liked to hear that you said that.
Oh no, he was. He was a bit of a star man, and it's sort of like you're trying to get in. You're trying to force you. I thought, listen, I'm as good as some of these at this level. Easily, I want to play. And I'm not going to hang around to be sub and come on. And even though I'm well younger, that's not my thing. But what was probably the tipping point of leaving Kirkby Town was I turned up for the game, and he said, I said, I've got an abscess, which stupidly I didn't tell them well before. Okay, so they've arranged the sort of the team sheet. And somebody's played, it's Lancaster it was in the FA Cup, funny enough. And I've got, okay, back. But on the Tuesday, they withdrew, and we're playing Lancaster again in the replay. So that when I've got to the ground, I've gone, right, Mark, you're a different name. You're Peter Murphy. And I'm gone, what? He said, messed up with the team sheet Saturday, so pretend you're Peter. If you get booked or you do anything, it's Peter Murphy. It's like Sunday League stuff, It's like, okay, I'm just following instructions as it was. We beat Lancaster, and I've had a real good game. So obviously a little bit of who lose that then, because I'm obviously younger than it turns out. Obviously they find out it's not Peter Murphy, it's Mark Shirley. So we end up.
Is that the Peter Murphy, the dad of the Peter who we had at Stanley?
No, it was his dad.
Oh, right.
It was his dad.
Yeah, his dad. Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah. Because it looks a little bit different than you, Mark, doesn't it?
Yeah.
He's about a foot taller and about twice as wide.
That was in the good way, old Darren. Yeah.
I wouldn't like to mess with that guy anyway. I'll tell you, he used to sit near me when he used to come and watch his lad play, Peter Junior, and he was quite a fearsome guy, wasn't he?
Yeah, that's Kirby for you, see,
yeah.
But so it ends up that anyway, I end up getting a 56-day ban, and I'm like protesting. Wait a minute, this is not me. Yeah. I mean, it's come really down because maybe more of a Liverpool side as well. So, so that was it. I wasn't too happy with that, and I thought I'd been actually treated. So away I go from them, and then I'm sort of playing locally, and what one thing that people did give you advice, and it's really, I pass this on to everyone. No matter what level, you go to that level. So if you're a good enough player, you might be, if you're good enough, you'll step up. But one thing, if you're playing lower level, you'll go to that level. You just do, because that's what's around you. So I'm playing there, but then I ended up going to Southport, so, come up there, and I ended up getting signed on a contract with them pretty quickly. Played in the FA Cup. We drew Port Vale, but again, I'm not a total regular in that, and it's my frustration, because I think I should be playing. I suppose everyone does, but it's sometimes maybe a weakness that you're not prepared to wait round. So we were on the television after match of the day. It's all good, and but I want to play because I think so. A little bit while later, I sort of left Southport, and I'm not playing regularly. And if the truth be told, I'm finding not difficult to football, but physically it's tough when and I've got to be a tip-top condition to do what I want to do. And, and obviously, like we just discussed, there's some good players and that, and they're not going to let you, 19, 20 years of age. So
you were a ball player as well, weren't you, Mark?
Yeah. I remember coming off and we played Goole, and it was a bit heavy, quite heavy pitch come off, and I'm like next day I'm like, it's like I couldn't walk, like I had, something like I was stuck in glue, and that was the next day, and thinking, this is physical, this is hard, So, I'm finding, and getting back to what I said about Forest, maybe because it was one of them, I was always training, no matter what club I went to, I was always training, I'd train 4 or 5 times a week. But the physical side of it, maybe if they'd concentrated on maybe doing something like that, maybe they come through a little bit quicker and maybe a little bit better. But so yeah.
So when did you first come across Mr. Coleman in your non-league career, Mark?
Well, John, believe it or not, John lived just over the road from my mum.
Yeah.
Right, and it literally was, when I say just over the road, it was. I think when John had just got married, And so I'll be honest, I think I played a game for, wasn't Cape Town or Prescott, and John had scored at Accy, and it was a quick fire at Accy, with 3 chances, boom, he's got the goals, and my mum and all that comes and watching, like, he's a bit good. But I knew of John, but the first time I really come across him, actually played with him, was at Lancaster, and we've started the league, and they've got some good players, Lancaster, before we come. So I've come in the summer. We've got Jimmy coming this summer, Stuart Gellan. Jay Flan was captain, was there. Real, top player. He'd had Steve Trainer, Stuart Diggle. They've got a good team, and we've added to that. And we've gone top of the league from the first goal. We're not stuttering, but we're still top, and it's getting a bit difficult. And we go in the dressing room in I think it's January it was. When we go in, Coley's sitting there. It's like, they just signed him in the afternoon from Morecambe. So let's give everyone a boost. And it was Lee Armai, and John scores on his debut. Just left foot, hit it into the ground, and somehow it's gone in as he does, And we're later than fantastic, and Coley's he's the best goal scorer I've ever played with, and that's at any level, and I think probably if John had been where there's more teams full time now, if you look at John as physique, even in his pomp, it's not what you would say as a top player, but yeah, he could finish, edit, shoot. He could have stepped up in this day now, and you probably play at least championship, or easily, because he could, you can't teach that to be able to finish. But getting back to that, we come and we ended up winning the league. But the first impression to John was, I've gone down the wing and I've crossed one, and it's not a bad ball in, but Coley sort of jumped up and he's clapping me, like, okay, I think it wasn't that good, like, but okay, fair enough, keep them coming, sort of thing. And it's only when we've won the league and we've gone out for a few beers and and then he starts telling us that the deal that he was on was like, it was £50 a goal. So it's like,
he'll keep clapping you, won't it?
Yeah, no, did he just keep going? I went, what? He went, oh yeah, I was something like £50 a goal and £200 at Accy or something like that. Yeah. So we're like, oh, that's okay. So and I reminded him of that. I said, well, no wonder I said the clapping was like, yeah, because it wasn't the best of balls, but it was okay, So
keep them coming.
Yeah, keep them coming in, like, but especially when there's £50 on them,
Well, what we want to do is we want to get really deep into your Accrington Stanley career here, because on Across the Pitch, we are the official international show of Accrington Stanley, and just love telling the story of Accrington Stanley to everybody, both in the UK and especially abroad. But before we get into the Accrington Stanley part of your your career. Like I mentioned at the beginning of the show, Tony Robinson has some world famous questions, and now not only is Tony's questions famous, but Tony himself is becoming famous. We're not going to be able to afford Tony anymore. He was on a Sunderland podcast talking about Stanley. Real quick, before we get into the next part, Tony, tell us a little bit about what you did this morning with the Sunderland podcast.
Well, they there's a fellow called Graham Falk, Falk. You gotta watch how we say that. He's from Scotland, but he's a big Sunderland fan, and he has a podcast and he does a preview show. And he invited me on to talk about Stanley this season and our chances against them on the weekend. So it was a nice chat. Always nice to sort of try and promote Stanley to other fans of other teams, So yeah, it was. I enjoyed it, and hopefully people will listen to it.
Well, kudos to you on that, Tony. And I just love the fact that we're starting to get invited onto some other shows to spread the word about Stanley. And
I think, to be honest with you, Phil, when he asked for Tony Robinson, I think he was thinking the guy from Blackadder, but he was. I think
he thought you were that motivational speaker guy, Tony Robbins.
No, I told him I did have a cunning plan, but anyway.
Well, I think that really how the Sunderland show heard about you is because of what we're about to do next, which is a segment that you came up with. I think it was about a year and a half ago. Started off with kind of some North England versus South England questions, and now it's really morphed into something that it's just beyond Beatlemania at this.
Oh, would you stop it?
I'm just going to turn it over to you.
Just get on with it, Phil.
For the world famous rapid fire.
It's not so famous rapid fire, Phil. The introduction takes longer than the bloody questions. Okay, we got some time to make up here, so we'll get right at it. Much of your garden, please.
Oh, definitely mushy.
Yes, of course. Red or brown sauce on your bacon sandwich?
Oh, 100% brown.
Right. And with your full English, black pudding, yes or no?
Definitely.
See, all the good answers from a good good Lancashire man there, Phil.
Yeah, definitely.
Do you have
was it Liverpool was taken out of Lancashire in 1970, right? I'm just showing that I know some things about England.
Do you have a favorite band or musician, Mark?
Probably a bit of Coldplay. I like a bit of everything, to be honest. Yeah, there's nothing. Probably I'd say probably Coldplay.
I've heard of them, Phil. Coldplay. Yes, I know them.
No, they have that one song, Yellow. I like this song.
Yeah.
They've got,
Don't sing it, Phil.
No.
Don't sing it, please. Move on, Tony.
Thank you. Bringing us back, Darren. Mark, do you have a stadium that you would have liked to play in that you never did, that we would have liked to play in?
I'd have probably said Arsenal. Before the Emirates would have been hybrid. I'd like to have gone there. And people say about that, the marble floors and stuff. It'd be nice to go there. Yeah.
Right. Favorite takeaway?
Favorite takeaway would probably be KFC.
Ooh,
wow.
That's I like that when I've got a bit of a hangover, but
I didn't know they had that name. That's a new one for me. Do they have fish and chips at KFC in England?
No.
No, just chicken.
Do they have mushy peas instead of mashed potatoes?
Oh, Phil, you're showing where you're from, Phil.
Yeah,
if you had a chance to have dinner with two people, living or dead, who would you like to sit down and have a break bread with?
living or dead. Bloody hell, it's a tough one. I think one. I mean, I think Barack Obama. I'd love to speak to him. I think he's really, it's fantastic, isn't he? What he's done. And I'm probably a sports person. I would probably go Klopp, Jürgen Klopp.
Well, that'd be interesting to listen to that.
Second or third time that he's come up, I think.
Yeah,
first time by an Everton fan, though, I think.
Listen, you're spot on because I've been called the Klopp.
What are you going to put in his drink there?
He's a top manager, though, isn't he?
Oh yeah,
well,
great guy. He's charismatic.
He could probably do anything. He's even though my Blues have said, and a few of the so you're a closet red, but you just can't help but like him. It's just
I agree. That's true.
Yeah,
you can't help but like him. I think if Sean Dice ever leaves Burnley, I think he'd fit in at Burnley. Anyway.
Yeah, quite possibly. Yeah,
I'm sure he'd be thrilled with that.
Yeah. Do you have one last one for me? Do you have a hobby or interest outside of football?
Nothing. I like keeping myself fit to go, do a bit of running, whatever. There's nothing I can say, right, that's definitely me. No, you just keep yourself fit. And, we like obviously spending some time with my family and stuff, but there's nothing that I can say, yeah, that's definitely me. I love doing that. There's nothing apart from, say, keep myself quite fit like that. I've got some time going for a run and stuff, I like that. Yeah,
you're not out on the beach with a metal finder looking for lost coins or anything.
Well, it's broke, so no.
No, it's broke. Okay. Okay, that's it for me on the not so world famous rapid fire.
Yeah. Okay, let's get back to
being a good sport on that one.
Yeah, let's get back to some football then. So Accrington Stanley, right? So we've had a lot of ex-players on this podcast and supporters, etc. But the one season that we keep going back to time after time because it's so special for the club is the first promotion under John and Jimmy. And I think it's fair to say you were a key part of that promotion. Fantastic times, weren't they?
Yeah, it was brilliant times, and probably, being honest, that you don't tend to make the most of it. And so when you look back and I think it was a really a good time. I think that first season signing for Accrington, I turned Rushton down in the January, February. I was offered a deal at Morecambe and Barrow and Altrincham, and John sort of said, hang on a little bit, and I didn't know he was going to get the Accrington job. He gets the Accrington job, and we go up. But just we sat down, me, John, Jimmy, and Eric. Now I'd had a little bit of dealing with Eric when he was manager of No Great Harwood.
Yeah.
And he knew his football. And I had a little bit of. We were playing them, and his son Paul was I think he was playing left mid, and Eric's on at him, he's shouting, "I told you, just do it." As I'm thinking, what's he going on about here? And I'm thinking, he's telling Paul to do me. So the Carnarvon, I was playing for Carnarvon's benches up, and it turns out he wasn't. He was telling him to track him back. So I'm thinking, well, this is not going to go very well because I've told Eric to do one F off previous. So when we sat down, I said that he's been good as gold, Eric, because he obviously he knew his football. And then signing for John was look, and I'd probably even being brutal, they offered me a great deal, but the reason why I went there was because of John,
Yeah, I think it was Eric was unusual for being a chairman that he'd also been a manager, etc., and player, and so because normally you get the people running the clubs, they haven't got much of a clue, have they?
Well, he was. It's funny you say that because Eric's, totally different, as you say, to most. I'd signed for Ashton United, but they bought me from Carnarvon, and they want to get in the league, Ashton, and the chairman there, Terry Liversidge says, he's got the money and he's got the permit and he's got the massive cigar celly, and he's a nice enough fella. But we've played Guiseley, who were real top. It was them and us going for the league, and we drew them in the League Cup, and I've come in the bar after them, and the goalkeeper's been sent off. There's a load of league clubs looking at him. So I was standing to Terry. I said, the good thing is, Terry said, that goalkeeper's going to be suspended for a couple of games now because he's this cup game. I know it's only a cup game, but it'll tie in the league. He said to me, all right. He said, but they'll have a goalkeeper in Monday. So I thought, oh my God. Yeah, Terry, they'll have a goalkeeper in, but it won't be him because he's suspended now because he's been sent off. So, you're dealing with one chairman who knows a lot about football, and you've got one who actually knows nothing about it, But he had plenty of money at the time to try and, but they don't know. Not all of them know exactly what's what. They're just in it for the ride sort of thing. Yeah. But
so that season it just got better and better near the end, didn't it? I mean, we've had a few of the lads from that team on this podcast, Jamie and. Jonathan Smith and Jay Flannery and everybody, and I was there. All revert back to the Radcliffe Borough game, and that final running was something special, wasn't it, Mark?
Oh, I think it's Christmas. Yeah, and I think at Christmas, when I signed, I didn't think for 1 second that we were not going to get promoted. But then as the season's gone on, we're having a few hiccups. We've lost a few games, and then we've had that running, as you say, and then. It was like if you get beat the Radcliffe Borough game, then you think, oh my God, we're not going up. We managed to win that one, and I think the last game of the season, there's no way that we weren't never going to win that game because the mood in the dressing room was really buoyant. And to be something as I've got older, Darren, I've realised this a little bit. When we were going through the bad bit, what Coley is good at, and he's probably as good as most at this, he did try and create that nice atmosphere in the dressing room, and you had togetherness, and you had a laugh, and because there was times when it wasn't going very well, even though we had some really, really good players. A lot of them players. Jade come from Lancaster, he was captain there. You got Mark Brennan, Steve Hollis, Russell Payne, J-Mo. They're all top lads, and you're thinking we should be walking away with this. But John really was, sort of kept that mood going. And even though I think he was a bit worried, if he said he wasn't, it surprised me that we were not going to get up here. But when we started getting a bit of momentum going, it felt good that we could beat anybody. And rightly so, we had a lot of good players in that team.
I think that, through watching the club for quite a lot of years, and I've seen 4 promotions through John and Jimmy, and it's almost once they get in the stride and they get on that run, there's nobody going to knock them off. It's just it's difficult with football to get on that run, isn't it? And a lot of people, a lot of teams, they lose and then they win one and draw one. But with those guys, they get in the running and get in the right position, which has been frustrating for this season in a way because a few key injuries. There would have been a few places further up, and I just thought if they just get in there at the right time and get in the playoffs, there'll be nobody stopping them.
No, and you're right, and I think that comes definitely from John's and Jimmy, obviously, but I think they've got good coaching there with John Doolan now. But he has a good dressing room, John, and it's not to be underestimated. That maybe listen, and when I played, did he underestimate it a bit? Well, yeah, because you're too busy worrying about yourself playing well. But that dressing room, that togetherness that they do create, it does go a long way. And as you say, when you get on a run, you're all together, and it's very hard to stop the bit of momentum going. And I probably downplayed that when I was actually playing, thinking, well, you can play well and you look after yourself, but at the same time, to have that togetherness, it's potent. I think, it's most important. I would say.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. And I think another thing that he's underestimated with us too is the players that they have. I mean, we've had loads of ex-players on this podcast, current players, and every one of them has been good to talk to, somebody you want to have a drink with. They don't suffer fools, do they? There's no big-time Charlies hanging around at all, is there?
No, it doesn't work. I don't think it definitely doesn't work. But I think they definitely, they created that. And I'm being honest, in my younger days, I might have gone, well, listen, as long as you got good players, but it means a hell of a lot if you get that dressing room right. And they are good at it. And John's got that personality where, as I said, I had a number of offers, and well, I said, he gave me a good deal. I'm not going to lie to you, but John, was the main factor in that, because he just has got he has got a good way about him. You want to play for him, and if you're not with him, you're feeling it a bit more because you think, well, because you do like him, sort of thing. He's likeable, John, isn't he? And if you do the business for him, he's very good.
Yeah, definitely. So, I mean, on back of that season, it was, the best season ever for in a lot of respects. And then disaster struck for you, didn't it? The next year, you just come off that Player of the Year, got promoted, first few games in at the next level, and you got that injury, didn't you?
That's right. I think it couldn't have got any better from the end of the season. Just touched on that, Darren. When we've actually won the league and we've come back out to get the trophy.
Yeah.
My wife's there, and she's 6 months pregnant, and she's in the middle of the melee. And my mum, who's 70 years of age, is in the middle of it. I'm like, this is bizarre. And they're absolutely, it's a brilliant day for me because they're there and they're enjoying it, and you can see, and then we've got pre-season, and then I've snapped me cruciate at I don't even know where it was now, to be honest. I should know where it was, and that's it's one of them. You try and come back from it, and then from actually coming back from that was actually only 6 months, even though I was out for 12. Every time I had the operation, it was actually 6 months, which wasn't long enough, to get back to it.
Mm. Yeah, I mean, you did have a comeback game, didn't you?
Yeah.
I always remember that game when you came on as a sub, and you've been out for so long. It's a shame, you couldn't get back to full fitness, but everyone was rooting for you in the ground that day, wasn't it? It was a really special moment, that.
Well, I think, like I said about winning the league was brilliant, but from a personal point of view, and I did, I still talk about it now. I did get a little bit, when I was coming on, and Coley's gone to me and said, all the best, sort of thing. I've got a little bit emotional because of what the fans done. And it was like, how good is this? And it's made me feel absolutely fantastic. Mm. And I've come on, and that, thinking, you got goosebumps.
Yeah, you can feel. I can feel it now. Yeah. In a way, it's like reminiscing back. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, he didn't. This was, and to be honest, we come on. I think we were playing, it might have been Blythe or whatever, and the Geordie's never short with it. But when he's coming on, he said to me, the lad, he said, "Well, I thought it was Ronaldhino coming on." He started laughing because they're quick with it, but I'm like thinking, and then when I come back, I'm telling everybody, because I'm feeling like he just made me feel 10 foot here, and he didn't have to do it because it's in football. You forget, I've been out a number of months and the team is doing not so great, but they usually forget, but they didn't, and I was like, it made me feel absolutely fantastic, as a person. So if I had to say, my memories was the one, obviously winning the league, and that's brilliant. But from a personal thing, even though it was a bit twisted sort of thing, he couldn't have got any better than that. No,
it's an emotional moment. It's pretty similar to obviously a lot more people in the ground as the ground's developed and the club's developed as when Billy Keefe, finished playing for us. You don't forget moments like that. It was great.
Yeah, no, it was good, to be honest.
I just wanted to jump in there and ask you, Mark, when you stopped playing, how difficult was that for you?
Well, if anybody that knew me, as I said earlier on, I try and keep myself in tip-top condition because I always thought, well, if someone's, paying you decent money and you want to give a good account to yourself, so I'd be training all the time. When we could be training Accrington twice, but I'd been out training 2 or 3 times by myself as like a full-time player, as well as going to work. So depending on what shift I was on, I'd be training either in the morning or the afternoon because that's what I'd done. So it was a little bit difficult. But the one thing was, and it does sound a bit soppy, my daughter was born, and all of a sudden, sort of having her on a Saturday was like, this is the best thing in the world. It's like, I missed the football and if I'm being honest, missed the money that come along with it. But I was sort of preoccupied with Georgia, and I was like, this is brilliant. So not as much as what I thought it was, but there was times when I did. Yeah, of course, there was times when and you see results and you think, but I was sort of resign myself to it.
Did you try coaching afterwards?
Well, I didn't, and my daughter was still young enough then, but my brother took over for me at Accy, and he was helping out the youth team a bit, and then they ended up winning the league and the cups that they've never won before, and he's absolutely, he consumed them. He absolutely loved it. Now I did, but not to the extent, because I looked at, our time was precious with my wife and George, and it does, I say, sound a bit soppy, but them times I did, and I thought, I'm missing out again here, that, George is she was starting to do athletics at the time, and we were taking her there, and she become really good at that, and I was like, this is my time with my family rather than just concentrating on what I want to do with the football. So while my brother actually, done brilliant, and he's passed away now, and I think if he'd have, been here around now, he probably would have gone on to do better things, because, but I was, not to that extent where I should have maybe done a bit more with it,
Yeah, you mentioned your daughter there, and obviously not the only sports person in your family. Tell us about your daughter's international career.
Well, basically, she as I said, she run, and she's pretty good runner in the county, and was a county champion. But she started rowing when she was 13. And not knowing at all about rowing, and being a Scouse, it's like, it's more a southern thing than being.
There weren't many rowing clubs around Kirby, Mark, were there?
No, that's it. Like,
same as Accrington.
No, on the Mersey River.
Yeah, you'd have had to dodge the shopping trolleys if you went by us, yeah. So I think so. She started rowing, and thinking, I'm again. When we do anything, you try and throw yourself, right? And I've been like that when I done football, and so Georgia was always going to throw herself into it with our support. So it become like a sort of a 5, maybe 6 times a week, as well as the studies training. And she's thinking, well, he's getting quite good at this actually. From not being able to row, and I don't know a thing about it, the physical side of it, because I knew what muscles you're doing and what you should be using. And rowing is 70% legs and 20 core, 10 arms. Everyone thinks it's the arms, but it's not. Unfortunately, Georgia got good legs, which is so she's onto sort of a bit of a winner. So we've been sort of taken up by that, and she's gone from sort of a national champion a few times to then trialing for Great Britain. She's got picked for the European Championship. She's won 2 bronze medals, and it for us, it's like, because you follow them all over the country. It's like heads racist, and it's absolutely brilliant. That give me a real buzz. But it was a lot of time. It was 5-6 times a week. And I say I like to keep myself fit, but when you're getting a little bit older, when one of the exercises what we developed was running up high-rise flats, 12 or 13 stories. So the deal was, I'll run ahead in case there's anybody on the landings, So anyway, and you can give me a couple of flight start. Well, after about 7 or 8 flights, my tongue's out and George is passing me, so it didn't really work very well, But that was the general gist of it. And we absolutely loved it. So she's got picked for Great Britain. She's won a couple of bronze medals. And we're delighted, and she's got off to university now to study medicine. And with the pandemic and that, it sort of curtailed it a little bit. But if I'm being honest, because she's studying medicine, after the 3rd year, it's probably going to get a bit too much. She's going into 3rd year next year, going to be a bit too difficult for her to continue with it, because it's to be good at it, you have to be at it all the time. It's a sport that you can't be professional.
So did you take after you or your wife were with her athletic ability then?
I think my wife's the normal one, because if there's and a lot of sport does connect. So with rowing, it's like, well, listen, you've got to prepare. So that's the same with any sport. And, you've got to start well. It's the same as in football. You start poorly. So when you start a race, you've got to be aggressive, and you've got to, even though it's non-contact sport, but all them principles still apply. So for us, I mean, my wife's the more normal one. It's, when I get carried away a little bit, trying to give a pep talk on the side, my wife's the normal one who'll say, well, wait a minute, just calm down here a minute, rather than when I'm getting, you make sure you start aggressive, you make sure you start. And Linda's a bit more. So, we've combined both. And Linda's, I say, a bit more normal one, but we've had some fantastic times with it. And that did fill a bit of a void, because I think maybe if we didn't have Georgia and she hadn't been doing the sport, then you do miss football a lot more.
Yeah.
Because she was doing the athletics and then doing rowing. It's like, this is absolutely fantastic. It's like another lease of life. So much so when she has sort of started, it's like, feels like a bereavement, because it's like, wait there a minute, where's my fix here? I love these competitions, and with the pandemic they got cancelled and stuff, but I used to absolutely look forward to them probably as much, if not more, than Georgia. There's more pressure on here, but I'm standing at the side, absolutely loving it.
Yeah. So, Mark, when you get a spare Saturday afternoon, now you're going to have to come and watch Accrington Stanley. I mean, I'm in regular touch with Jay Flannery, and he comes and watches the game. So get Jay to give you a lift and come and watch the Reds and have a pint. I'll buy you a pint.
Wait a minute.
Only if we win. It's happy hour. It's £1 a pint, you see. So if not,
is that shandy?
No. In all seriousness, I think, the club are trying to encourage more ex-players back to the ground. We can reminisce, and it'd be great if you could come and see us. And it's been sorry,
Darren, I shouldn't have done. And I appreciate you're offering me to come back. I think. Yeah. I know when I played at Morecambe, he's like, come back and play in a match. It was opening the new ground, and and it's me. It's not nobody else. It's me, and I've gone, but I have no intention of doing it. And it's like I'm thinking, why? Because you had some more okay times there, but an Accrington said, come back, and I have been offered to come back, and they haven't, and it is me, and it's, if I'm being honest, it's a bit poor on my behalf, and I would like to sort of go back up, because I did have some nice times there. I tell George had obviously never ever seen me play, but I tell her enough about it. And I was treated well there.
Yeah, it's nice that we dug that goal out that you scored against Farsley Celtic. It's gone down well on Facebook this week, and so thanks for joining us on this podcast. It's been really nice to talk to you, Mark, and your name still crops up. We look at best 11s, and thinking of players we've had over the last 20 years. There's been some phenomenal players, and your name, without wanting to blow smoke up your backside, is always prominent for the winger. You're one of my favourite players at that time, and it's been great to talk to you tonight.
Thanks, I really appreciate that.
Yeah, it's been a real pleasure.
It really has. And as someone who first started following Stanley in 2018 and has just become, some people would say, obsessed with the club since, one of the main reasons that I started this show was because I wanted to tell the story of the team, not just today, but all the way going back as far as we can. And of course, Darren with his 50 years book is just the preeminent historian in Accrington Stanley. And to have you on the show here with us today to tell your part of the story has just been beyond an honor, and we really appreciate it. And we like to finish up with an on Stanley on. So if everybody's ready, I'm going to count to 3. Is everybody ready?
Yep.
All right, here we go. 1, 2, 3. On Stanley on!
Cheers, Mark.
Cheers,
Cheers, mate.
Much appreciated. Thanks a lot.